जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंसाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन फंड आचार्य शिला प्रभुपाद की नाम आचार्य शिला हरिदास ठाकुर की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So welcome to this morning Bhagavatam class. Today we are reciting the verse from Canto 4, Chapter 27, Attack by Chandavega on the city of King Purañjana, and the text number 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 9. Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yairvai puranjanon vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yarvai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha Puranjanam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yairvai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha. Prabhu Juice. Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yarvai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam Puranjai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yarvai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha Putranam cha bhavan putra ekaikasya satam satam yarvai puranjano vamsa Pañcāleshu sameditaha. Okay, word to word meaning. Putranam, of the sons, cha, also, abhavan, were produced, putra, sons, ekasya, of each one, satam, 100, shatam, 100, yea, by whom, why, certainly, Purañjana, of King Purañjana, Vamsha, family, Pañcāleshu, in the land of Pañcāla, Sameditaha, greatly increased. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Hesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, please repeat. Of these my many sons, each produced hundreds and hundreds of grandsons. In this way, the whole city of Pañcāla became overcrowded by the sons and grandsons and of King Purañjana. Purport. We must remember that Purañjana is the living entity and the city Pañcāla is the body. The body is the field of activity for the living entity, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Kshetra, Kshetrajna. There are two constituents. One is the living entity, Kshetrajna, and the other is the body of the living entity, Kshetra. Any living entity can know that he is covered by the body if he only contemplates the body a little bit. Just with a little bit contemplation, he can come to understand that the body is in his position. One can understand this by practical experience and by authority of the Shastras. In Bhagavad Gita 2.13, it is said, Dehinosmin yatha dehi, the proprietor of the body, the soul is within the body. The body is taken as a Pañcāla desha, or the field of activities wherein the living entity can enjoy the senses in their relationship to the five sense objects, namely Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, Sparsha and Shabda. That is sense objects made out of earth, water, fire, air and sky. Within this material world, covered by the material body of subtle and gross matter, every living entity creates actions and reactions, which are herein known allegorically as sons and grandsons. There are two kinds of actions and reactions, namely pious and impious. In this way, our material existence becomes coated by different actions and reactions. In this regard, Sri Narottam Dasa Thakura states that Karma Khanda, Jnana Khanda, Kevala Vishera Bandha, Amruta Bhaliya Eba Kaya, Nana Yoni Sadapire, Kadhraya Bhakshana Hakare, Tara Janma Ada Pate Yaya. Fruitive activities and mental speculations are simply cups of poison. Whoever drinks of them, thinking them to be a nectar, must struggle very hard life after life in different types of bodies. Such a person eats all kinds of nonsense and becomes condemned by his activities of so-called sense enjoyment. Thus, the field of action and reactions by which one's descendants are increased begins with sex life. Purañjana increased his whole family by begetting sons who in their turn begot grandsons. Thus, living entity being inclined towards sexual gratification becomes involved in many hundreds and thousands of actions and reactions. In this way, he remains within the material world simply for the purpose of sense gratification and transmigrates from one body to another. His process of reproducing so many sons and grandsons results in so-called societies, nations, communities, and so on. All these communities, societies, dynasties, and nations simply expand from sex life, as stated Prahlad Maharaja, Yan Maitunadi Gruhamedi Sukam Hitucham, Bhagavatam 7.9.45. A Grihamedi is one who wants to remain within this material existence. This means that he wants to remain within this body or society and enjoy friendship, love, and community. His only enjoyment is in increasing the number of sex enjoyers. He enjoys sex and produces children, who in their turn marry and produce grandchildren. The grandchildren also marry and in their turn produce great-grandchildren. In this way, the entire earth becomes overpopulated, and then suddenly there are reactions provoked by material nature in the form of war, famine, pestilence, and earthquakes, etc. Thus, the entire population is again extinguished simply to be recreated. The process is explained in Bhagavad Gita 8.19 as repeated creation and annihilation. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. Due to lack of Krishna consciousness, All this creation and annihilation is going on under the name of human civilization. This cycle continues due to man's lack of knowledge of the soul and supreme personality of Godhead. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, we are continuing the pastimes of Purañjana, and so from past few verses we have seen how Purañjana is involved in various materialistic activities, sense enjoyment. And in today's verse and in the purport, it was clearly mentioned some of the deeper meanings. Like, see, we all know it's an allegorical story of King Purañjana story, is allegorical story. And Narada Muni is narrating this story to Prachina Parishad. And from this verse, it said King Purañjana produced 1,100 sons. I think it was mentioned in the previous verse. And then he produced 110 daughters. And directly if you see, yes, he was involved in so much material enjoyment and he was producing the children. But Prabhupada was explaining the deeper meaning of this verse, like what is the meaning of 1,100 sons and 110 daughters, and they in themselves produced further children, grandchildren, like that. So they are completely producing one after that, they are begetting the children, and then complete country is overpopulated with their family members. So Srila Prabhupada was mentioning this very clearly in the purport. Right? When the senses interact with the sense objects, right? And then when you start enjoying the senses, not for the pleasure of Lord, for our own pleasure, what will happen? It will produce the reaction. Like we know in the Bhagavad Gita verse, Yajnashishta sanasanto muchyante sarvakalbisha bunjate tum agam papam ye pachanti atmakarna. When you offer a food to Krishna, when you eat, then it is a prasadam. But when you don't offer anything to Krishna, you consume on your own, for your own sense enjoyment, you are eating sins. Same thing we can compare here. Here they are doing the actions. King Purañjana is involved in so many materialistic activities. And each materialistic activity which is not rendered to Krishna, which is not offered to Krishna, it will produce a reaction. So we will perform some action that will produce some reaction. That we know all from Bhagavad Gita. Right? So this is happening. So each action, when you perform action, we have to take reaction. And to get that reaction, you need to take another birth. And in that birth, again you will perform action. So it is repeatedly taking birth again and taking birth again and again in this material world. This way, you will remain in this material world. And Prabhupada was quoting in the purport, one of the important words from Bhagavad Gita. It is chapter 8:19. Bhutva Bhuta Gramasa Evayam Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate Ratri Agame Vasa Partha Prabhavati Ahar Agame. So the translation says, again and again when Brahma day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So when, as we are doing the repeated action and taking birth and death, how this process is working, Bhagavad Gita, this is chapter 8, in the text 19 is clearly explaining. So when the day, during the day of Brahma, what is happening? For each of we keep on taking the birth in different bodies. And then when the night comes, when the Brahma, it's a partial annihilation happens. Right? That is where we all will be going into the body of Mahavishnu. And in that body of Mahavishnu, we will be in dormant state for so many millions of years. So this is what happening. And one more thing we need to understand. When we are trying to remain in this material world, how we can understand a little bit deeper, it's not just we are taking a human birth and living in the material planet. Right? This material world consists of 40 planetary systems, like upper planetary systems, middle one, Earth, and the lower planetary system. So if you see, Satyaloka is the topmost, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Swargaloka, and Bhuvarloka. And then these are the top 6 planets. And the middle one is Earth planet. And then we have lower level planets like Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. Patala is the last one where the Nagaloka serpents will be. So out of these 14 planetary systems, you may take birth in any of the planet. It all depends on your karma and your desires, right? So it's not like when you are trying to live in this material world, when each time you are performing action and reaction, it's not guaranteed that you always take human form, right? It all depends on your karma, your desires. Those things will derive your next birth. And one more thing, in the purport, the Bhagavad Gita verse, in the night time of Brahma, what will happen? When the night time, only the top 3 planets will remain. Nothing will happen. But remaining all the lower Earth planet and heavenly planet, all other planets will be annihilated. Right? So that is the time, at the end of the day of the Brahma, the night time, everything will be annihilated and you will be going into the body of Mahavishnu. That is where you will be staying in, without any body, material body, you will be in a dormant state, without any activity. So this is how we need to understand when you are remain in this material world. It's not just on the Earth planet, we will be taking the material body and enjoying. No. You can go to any of the 14 planetary systems, all depending on your past karma. And general tendency, so in our material world, particularly if you see the Hindu tradition, most of the people will call going to the heaven is the highest purpose. They think, okay, we have to go to heaven. And in other religion also, they talk about heaven and hell. But these are all temporary. We need to understand. Heaven and hell is actually temporary position. When you do good activity, you will get some credits. As long as that credits are there, you will be staying in that heaven. Once your credits are finished, you will come back to the planet and take another birth. So these are all temporary things. So this is called avidya. People don't know the highest goal of the life. With the lack of this higher knowledge, people are focusing on the smaller temporary things. And I heard in one of the interviews long back. So one movie star, he got very good name and fame. And he was telling in an interview, I am very much happy in this life. I will pray God that every time I take this human form. So this is the tendency people are having in this material world. By the mercy of Prabhupada, we are getting this knowledge and we are trying to understand what would be the ultimate aim. But in the outside world, we see, we don't know their tendency. They don't know the difference between hell and hell, the temporary planets, heaven and the hell and the higher Vaikuntha Loka. They don't know the difference, and taking the human birth again and again is like a privileged thing. That's what they believe. and enjoying this material world. So these are all things we can say, understand that it's a completely, the Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, it's a lack of spiritual knowledge. Like we discussed so many details about the avidya in the previous classes, right? And one more pastime I remember from the Srila Prabhupada. I think it was in somewhere in Europe. Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture. Again, he was talking the topic about karma. And he was taking the karma, same that action, reaction happens, how the living in it is going to the infinite cycles of birth and death. So one audience, one devotee from the class asked Prabhupada, in which body I was in my previous life? So then, I think you must have heard this story previously. Then Prabhupada was silent. And then Prabhupada continued the class without responding to us. So then after some time again he asked, Prabhupada, in which body I was in my previous body? So then Prabhupada again he didn't respond. Once the class is finished and when Prabhupada was leaving, then that guy, again that devotee asked, in which body I was in? Then Prabhupada told, don't worry about in which body you are in. Focus on what would be your next birth. Right? So that is, these are various, these examples we tell, like the movie actor interview and these people, how they think about, they are trying to dig in, analyze their past life rather than focusing on how can we get the proper life in the future, how can we stop this repeated birth and death. So not many people are having this knowledge, right information and setting up the right goal of the life. So now, the understanding will go, as per the Prabhupada example, we may not know in which body we were in. But one thing we can understand from the scriptures, the process we had all undergone to get this human form. How complex that life process was. So many millions of births we took, and so many different species of life we entered, and finally we came to this human form. Though we may not know in which body we were in, but the process we had all undergone, that complex, difficult process. When we know, then we should understand this form, human form, how precious, how important it is. Right? Otherwise, at least by understanding the process, we know the importance of human life. So, again, in this context, when we try to understand the complexity of the human process, in the previously we discussed, right? Repeatedly taking birth and death, in going into the different form. And at the end of the Brahma's end of the Brahma's day, when the night enters, we all enter into the Mahavishnu body in dormant state. Then how Jiva will come? Just when we have this understanding the process, we know we understand the complexity and the importance of this process, and then we know the importance of human. So how the human being will come into the earth planet or the material world. So when in the Mahavishnu body, he will be in the dormant state. And we know the Mahavishnu, millions of universes coming from his body. And when he glances on the material nature, pradhana, when he glances through his eyes, the pradhana, what will happen? He will impregnate jiva, kala, karma, all those. So that way again, that jiva who is in the dormant state of Mahavishnu body, again enters into this material world. Again, which body he takes, it depends on his karma. And Prabhupada mentioned many times, right? 8.4 million species are there in this material world. You can right from aquatic fish or anything in the water animals, plant. You can take the birth as a plant and insect, or you can take animal, bird, and finally human. So the evolution is like aquatic, plant, insect, bird, animal, and human. This is how the evolution progress. Then you will take the human form. So this is the complex process. When we talk about the Prabhupada mentioned many times, we have taken millions of births previously before coming to this form of human form where we are involved in. So how? Because as soon as you come out of when Mahavishnu impregnates, you can take any of based on your karma, you can become aquatic or you can become plant. Then what will happen once you become plant, you spend so many years, like we see in the park, big trees lying there from so many years, right? So same thing, we will be staying there as a tree for multiple, then after that, you will get into the insect body. Then once you get into the insect body, its span may be, based on your karma, you will spend some time, and then you will become bird. Like that, this is the evolution happens, and finally, you will reach human form of life. And one thing we need to understand, When about karma, when you take this lower species of life, not human form, because of karma, you got this body and you started evolution. But in that animal body, suppose you have taken small insect, it will not create new karma. As per evolution, it will take next body in this right. But only karma accumulates, like whatever action you perform, that karma will come only in the human form. So you need to understand the importance of the human life, and at the same time, the problem, the impact. If you don't understand your ultimate aim of life, and if you don't involve in bhakti, you will start accumulating karma, and again because of karma, you can go back to any of this plant, insect, bird, all this, anything, any of the forms you can take. So this is a complex cycle. When we understand that, again I'm reiterating that, we understand the importance of human form. After so many millions of cycles of birth, we got this human form and we are trying to utilize in the form of bhakti and progressing in the bhakti, right? So this, when we understand that, the process, it is easy, where we are currently, what is our situation, how lucky we are. Now, so when we see this material process, like a repeated birth and death we are taking, right? So how to come out of this cycle? We know Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, many things mentioned. Bhakti is the ultimate. But when let's think in the logical perspective, then we can understand the philosophy from the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. See, logically, when I'm trying to understand, means how we try to understand, we are taking the repeated birth and cycle. How can we come out of the repeated birth and death? So if we understand our constitutional position, and then from the Bhagavad Gita, right, we have the intelligence is there on, and intelligence guides to mind, and mind guides to senses, and senses involved in various activities, right? When you start from the bottom to top, we try to analyze one by one. First thing, when we are using the senses, we are involved in various sense enjoyment activities, right? That is causing the bondage. So what is the ultimate logical thinking we can get? Okay, rather than enjoying the thing, don't try to detach from the results, right? One way of when the senses are involved in doing various activities, that is causing the bondage, repeated birth and cycle. So what you are doing when you are performing the activities, you are trying to enjoy the activity, results of the activities. Like you made nice rasagulla and you want to enjoy eating. That will cause reaction because you didn't offer to Krishna. Or you are enjoying, you are doing some job, you got some good amount of salary, and you are trying to utilize for you to nice building, nice car, nice dress. These all things will cause bondage, right? So now when you treat from the bottom, the senses are causing this issue. Next thing, logically we can think, okay, instead of me enjoying the results, let's detach from the result, right? And let's offer, then that detachment, that is where karma yoga starts, right? When you try to detach from the actions, results of the action, offer to Krishna, that is a karma yoga. That's what our scriptures mentioning, it is a karma yoga. Doing the karma for as per your responsibility, as per your nature, you have to do some activities, but don't enjoy with those activities, rather you offer back to Krishna. Then you won't get any reaction. Then you will be coming out of the birth and death. That is where in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter and 5th up to first few chapters, it was explained. That is the karma yoga. So, but the process of the karma yoga is, it looks easy. Right? Just, okay, we do all the activities, whatever you are doing previously, but just offer to Krishna. The statement wise, it looks simple. But what it requires, detaching the results of the action, that requires inner transformation. It's not just thinking that, okay, from now onwards I will detach the result. It won't happen. Right? You are consciously, you are attached to the result, even though you try to detach, but it's practically, it's very difficult process. Yes, it is a proper, valid process, but that leads to jnana and other things, finally bhakti. But this process is very lengthy process. It requires proper inner transformation. So, in this Kali Yuga, following this karma yoga process is not very advisable. It's a long process, a lengthy process, and it's very difficult to follow. So, that is one. So, in the hierarchy, we touched senses first. When we touch the senses, we have to detach, and it's a difficult process in the Kali Yuga. The next comes to this controlling the senses. So we in the first instance, we didn't try to control the senses. We try to detach from the results sense producing. The next thing is controlling the senses. How the senses can be controlled? Because mind is giving the input to senses. Mind is controlling. So controlling the mind leads to sense control. Right? That is where Ashtanga Yoga coming into the picture. Right? Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So when you try to control the mind, and you do just again, controlling the mind is not a one-step activity. Okay, today I decide that I'll control the mind. Let me go to my secluded place and close my eye. I'll close my eyes and I'll focus. No. Even if you are closing eyes, your mind is working, you are active, you are thinking something. It's not inactive, right? So controlling the mind leads to controlling the senses. So that's where Patanjali Yoga Sutra was coming into the picture, where it mentions yama, niyama. Yama means do's and don'ts, yama, niyama, asana, sitting in a proper place, and pranayama, controlling the air flow, and pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, and then dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So this is all given in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So, but finally what it's Prabhupada clearly mentioned, it is a valid process, but again, in the Kali Yuga, it's not possible. We can't control our mind. So, again, so it's this is the next. We looked into the control, we try to address the issue coming out of the repeated birth and death through senses. And now we try to control the mind through senses. Then finally it comes to the intelligence. How the intelligence can be controlled? By knowledge. With the proper knowledge, you can control you can streamline, purify the intelligence. But how do we get the intelligence? What kind of intelligence, jnana we required? About our body. This body is temporary, and the soul, we are not the body, we are the soul. That is kind of jnana we need to take. And this body is temporary, this material world is temporary, soul is eternal. These are all the things we need to understand. We need to get this jnana. When we get this knowledge, what will happen? It develops renunciation, which means you are so then when the renunciation comes, then you will be detaching from the results, or you will be controlling the senses. Again, it is also, it's a proper valid process, but the danger with this process is, when you are trying to, when you are the Jnana Yoga, you start with a speculative knowledge. What you try to do? Impersonal Brahma, you will think that, Brahman is the ultimate absolute truth, and my aim is to merge in the Brahman and become a God. That we will become a Mayavadi, right? So, the danger with the Jnana Yoga process is, you will be ending up in trying to become you may deviate from the proper process, and then you will think that, I need to merge in the Brahman, I can become a God, and you are losing your identity, soul's individual identity. So, these are all the challenges we have. Yes, it's a valid process, it can help you to progress in the path of, it's a spiritual path, but the disadvantages is, it is having the danger of going away from the path of bhakti, and then you will try to become impersonal Mayavadi. So these are all just by analyzing the intelligence, mind and senses, and we are trying to see logically, we are trying to discuss and connecting to the various yogas mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. That's what we are trying to do here. So we tried with the senses, we tried with the mind, we tried with the intelligence. All are valid process, but in the Kali Yuga, practical difference is there. That's where finally Srila Prabhupada mentioned Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate thing, where what we are doing, again we are using intelligence, mind, senses, everything we are utilizing, but in a proper guide under the shelter of bona fide Guru. We take the shelter of Guru, under the instruction of Guru, we try to execute all the activities. And so, if you see all the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, you forcefully are trying to bring all this renunciation and detachment, everything coming artificially. You are trying to enforce, right? When it comes to Bhakti Yoga, it is not, you are not renouncing anything. Whatever activity you are doing, you are preparing nice dishes, and finally, you are offering to the Lord, and you are having the prasadam. And all the activities, conscious wise, everything, everything is come to mind, intelligence, senses, everything aligned towards bhakti. So this is how you are progressing. In this way, when we follow this Bhakti Yoga, is the is simplest process, easiest process among all the, that's what Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita Krishna told. In my opinion, this is the best. He has not enforced, Krishna has not enforced us to do bhakti yoga. But he gave all the drawbacks from all the things, and in this way, this is the important one, bhakti yoga. So same thing we can understand. We can try all the intelligence mind separately, individually, we cannot. But combining all, when we use them in the service of Krishna, we can progress in bhakti. We can come out of this avidya, and we can come out of this repeated birth and death cycle. So in the Prabhupada current purport, he was mainly focusing on this, how we are entangled in this repeated birth and death. So I have thought of connecting to those points and presenting some bigger picture or the higher picture. And one more thing, when we try to see bhakti yoga process, one of the important thing is in 18.66, Sarva Dharmanu Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Krishna is expecting surrender. So when we see, we try to compare, okay, Krishna wanted to surrender first to give before giving the bhakti. But how can we understand this? Is Krishna is behaving like a boss? That, oh, you have to surrender me, then only I will give bhakti. But it's not like a bossism is here. We need to understand, when we see the karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga process, it's a very difficult process in the Kali Yuga. It's not possible. And if you don't offer the Krishna results to Krishna, you will entangle in repeated birth and death. So only way is you offer to that Krishna. That offer, surrender, offer, how can you offer to Krishna? How you can internal consciousness will change? Unless you surrender to Krishna, you cannot get that mood of offering. Right? So this is the way Krishna is recommending to surrender. If you see in the Bhagavad Gita that 18.66 it was spoken last, not at the beginning. If Krishna is like a boss, he would have told beginning itself to Arjuna, okay, surrender to me and do all this. But what he did, he explained everything. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and difficulties. If you don't follow difficulties, what will happen? Finally, you offer everything to Krishna. How you can offer? Only by surrendering. Right? He's trying to help us. That's why he spoke Bhagavad that surrender to me at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. And then he's asking us, you decide based on these things. Right? So, this is how we can understand, by surrendering to the Lord, by offering our results, we can come out of this repeated birth and cycle easily. So, I will conclude here. Any comments, any questions? Yes, ma'am. It's not spiritual, it's a material world, it's a higher plan, it's in the material world. So like, say if in the yeah, those are all, it's in the material world, it's not spiritual. Count it, I don't know, count point. So if I understand your question, there are many, at the end of the Kali Yuga, when Kalki comes, everything is annihilated, then people will go back to the, okay, that is not the, okay, I want to expand that. Not everybody will go back to Goloka, right? So based on your karma, so that is what full annihilation. Complete is when material world is completely annihilated. Suppose if you are a devotee, you are eligible to go back to Godhead, you will go back to Godhead in Goloka, any of the Vaikuntha as per your nature. But if you are not a devotee, you are involved in, what will happen? At the end of the Kali Yuga, you will go back to the Mahavishnu body in dormant state. This is not going to Goloka or Vaikuntha. You will be in dormant state without having any material body. Again, when Mahavishnu impregnates your jiva into the material world, then you will take a birth again in any of the... Again, when Kali Yuga and a new start, it need not be the same material world. It can be any different material world, because hundreds of universes coming from Mahavishnu body, right? You can go to any of the based on your karma. If you are not a devotee, you will get another birth as per your karma and swabhava. But if you are a devotee, you will go back to Godhead. Yes. So your desire is to please Krishna. So yeah. Yeah. See, look, you can take the Maharaj Bharat example, right? He did so much devotion, and at the finally last minute, he was connected to the deer. And then when he was leaving the body, even though he completely renounced his kingdom, means you can understand his mood at that time. What was his mood, consciousness, right? He came to forest, but he got attracted to small deer, and then he has to take birth. So that is the example you can see, Prabhu. We can't give any percentage wise, but example in Bhagavatam it was given, right? Smallest desire also. That's what, if we treat our root cause, why we came to this material world, we had some desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. As long as you have that desire, you are eligible to continue in this material world, right? See, that's what, again, you need to understand the difference between the Bhakti Yoga and other process. We are not trying to renounce everything. We are trying to channelize our desires and activities towards Krishna. We are not renouncing or forcefully trying to suppress our desires or trying to suppress our activity. That is not the Bhakti path, right? So we are trying to channel. It may take time, but yeah, that is what we have seen examples from Bhagavatam and our scriptures. Many people followed and successfully went back to Godhead, right? So we have hope. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I remember, yes. I remember. Prabhupada I have a back door and key from the back door in Goloka. I will take you back to that back door. That's what Prabhupada. So, we don't have any eligibility, Prabhu. We are only Guru's mercy, Prabhupada mercy only. We will go back to Godhead. But it doesn't mean that we should avoid all if you have to get Guru's mercy means you have to follow instructions of Guru. Right? So, all you do is follow your Guru's instruction and follow the 4 regulative principles what Prabhupada prescribed. Guru mercy, Prabhupada mercy, we will get chance. That's it. No, Prabhu, there is no such count because no, he will have a count. We don't know. Yeah, he will have his complete. Prabhu, he is the creator, maintain, he is a Aham Sarvasva Prabhu, right? He is so he knows everything, but we don't need to know that. That's why he did not provide us. Yeah. Yeah. So Prabhu, see, that's what, we don't need to worry about all other things. Our goal, as I mentioned Prabhupada example, we don't need to worry about all this complicated matter. Technicality, don't go into the... See, it is better to know the knowledge, understanding what is happening behind the scenes, right? That will give us an idea how important this human form is and how we should utilize it. But beyond that, don't go into the technicality. It will unnecessarily create a confusion. You will forget your original goal. But see,
one more thing we need to understand. When you see living entities, you are not just human beings, you are thinking only, but there are many living entities like plant, insect, everything is in the Krishna's purview only. We are not focusing on that, right? So our aim should be, yes, understanding this complete picture is well enough to proceed in our bhakti. That much only we should take. Don't go into the low minute deities, how many people are at the Kali Yuga, how many people will be going. That's Krishna's responsibility, Krishna's headache. We don't need to worry about that. Let him handle. He is capable to handle those headaches. Yeah? Yes.
Constant endeavor.
Yes.
Constant endeavor for refinement.
Yes, that's.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And he's at the end of the day overcrowded.
Yeah.
So we don't know how these calculations work, but constant desire, constant endeavor. Hopefully.
Yeah. The desire and endeavor again, by the mercy of Guru, he will give you the proper direction. Through that you will be on our own. See, on our individual capacity, we are nothing. Only by the mercy of Guru, Parampara and Prabhupada, we can achieve that goal. That's we need to remember. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।